Russian jet aircraft entered Estonian airspace, where they remained for approximately 12 minutes. 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets violated Estonian airspace. NATO fighter jets responded, and the Russian aircraft were forced to flee. Such a violation is completely unacceptable. The Estonian government has decided to request consultations under Article 4 of NATO. The Russian aircraft operating over the Gulf of Finland had their transponders turned off and did not respond to any communications. An extreme form of provocation, which is related, among other things, to gathering information about NATO systems and procedures, all of which is being done with a view to possible aggression. Estonia was right to request consultations under Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty, and Poland should support this request. But Russia should also remember that when it engaged in similar provocations on Turkish territory some time ago, Turkey, also a NATO member, did not invoke any articles, but simply pressed the buttons. The missile flew, and the Russian plane crashed. The President of the United States has spoken out on the intrusion of Russian MiGs over Estonia.
I don't love it. I don't like when that happens. It could be big trouble.
The Kremlin has been using provocations against NATO countries for a long time. The actions consistently carried out by the Russian Federation, which are technically called provocations, are in fact a scenario for waging hybrid warfare that has been consistently implemented with iron precision for many years. Vladimir Putin is clearly taking a harder line. These provocations can be understood as part of negotiations with Donald Trump, as a strategy to show that he is tough and decisive. However, the community of free nations has a duty to treat this as preparation for war and to respond appropriately. But that's not all, because Russian fighter jets also flew 150 meters from a Polish drilling platform in the Baltic Sea, 70 kilometers from the Polish coast. 2 Russian Air Force fighter jets flew low over the Petro-Baltic drilling platform. The services responsible for Poland's security are constantly monitoring the situation within critical maritime infrastructure, including outside Polish territorial waters. There is no doubt that the Kremlin, through its actions, including the recent drone attack on our country, is implementing a plan to provoke and test NATO countries. This is a systematic way of waging war against Western countries. Poland and other NATO countries are defined as adversaries, and Poland is defined as a target for offensive actions by the Russian Federation. Let us remember, and I always remind people of this and will continue to do so, that the Russian Federation is practicing nuclear attacks, for example on Warsaw, and has practiced them repeatedly during Zapad exercises. According to experts, what has been happening recently is nothing more than testing and gathering information about the defense systems of Poland and other countries on NATO's eastern flank. The Russian Federation's strategy of aggression against the Baltic states is being written and updated on an ongoing basis. This provocation against Poland is also closely linked to our special role both in the Baltic Sea and on NATO's eastern flank. Russia is testing the security system of our allies. Russia is constantly provoking and crossing new boundaries. That is why our actions must be decisive. First of all, we must arm ourselves. We must increase our anti-drone protection, and we must modernize our air defense system. Polish aviation is also regularly disrupted by Russian attacks on Ukraine. This was also the case this morning. The operation of Polish and Allied air forces in our airspace has been terminated due to the cessation of long-range airstrikes by the Russian Federation on Ukraine. The activated ground-based air defense and radar reconnaissance systems have returned to standard operational activity. Our actions were preventive in nature and aimed at securing the airspace in areas adjacent to the threatened area. Also due to recent Russian provocations, NATO launched the Eastern Guard mission to strengthen its eastern flank. Danish F-16 fighter jets and French Rafale jets, among others, are to operate as part of this mission. This is because the recent attack by Russian drones has exposed the weakness of the country currently ruled by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk.
Obowiązkiem państwa
It
polskiego
is the duty of the Polish state and Polish politicians, but also of Polish citizens, to be aware of this and not to allow the Russian Federation to achieve its political and military goals, because they are intertwined. Because so far, the current Polish government has been rather embarrassing itself, as in the case of Marcin Bosacki, Polish deputy head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who used disinformation at the UN Security Council.
Musi być po prostu zdecydowana.
There simply has to be decisive pressure on the government to behave in a fully professional manner so that state structures, including the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, stop clowning around and get on with their professional work for the security of the Polish state. To begin with, it would be appropriate for Tusk's government to reach an agreement with Polish President Karol Nawrocki so that a real Polish ambassador finally appears in Washington, D.C.